Hello guys, it is Ital Slenny, and today I'm going to be talking about the similarities between Giorno Giovanna and Jolyne Cujo, which I'm aware doesn't feel like it's saying a lot considering these are both protagonists of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and for the first 6 parts, all of the JoJo protagonists have a lot in common, but I believe that these two specifically have a lot of strange things that tend to overlap, and I just want to talk about them today. So without further ado, here are my Jo notes, and I'm going to be discussing them during the duration of the speed paint. Also, some of the points do kind of extend to the part themselves being similar, which I guess isn't a big shock considering Part 5 and Part 6 are right after each other, but still, I want to talk about it because I think it's interesting. The first thing is that Stone Ocean and Golden Wind have similar naming conventions. The ocean and wind can be tied to like elemental stuff like water and air, and then also minerals because stone and gold are both kind of rocky substances that you'd find in the earth. This is a stretch, I know, but it's also interesting, and I'm aware that Part 4 has diamond is unbreakable, but there's not an element in that name, it just has diamond in it. Both have been to prison or jail. Obviously, Jolyne's entire part's first setting is in a prison, and then for Giorno, he does end up meeting Pol in prison to try and prove his worthiness to the Mafia. So it's interesting that both of these people are technically criminals, and also I put that they're both good criminals. Even though they technically are breaking the law, they still have hearts of gold in one way or another. So, yeah. Now, this one is very nerdy and stupid, but they both live on peninsulas. For those who don't know, peninsulas are basically landmasses that are surrounded by water on 3 sides, and both Florida and Italy are technically peninsulas. It's just very funny that both of them live on peninsulas. That's all this one is. Now, take this with a grain of salt, as I'm not completely sure if this is true, but Giorno was originally meant to be a girl. If this was the case, it would mean that he would be the first female JoJo protagonist, and also, considering his powers, I wouldn't be surprised that he was initially drafted to be a girl. Creation is typically associated with very feminine powers. Regardless, though, this is interesting to me specifically because Jolyne was also initially meant to be a girl. Regardless, though, it's interesting that both of these characters were supposed to be women, but only one of them ended up being one. Sorry if I keep saying interesting, I just don't know what other word to use. Moving on. These are the only JoJo protagonists, at least of the parts that I've seen so far, which are associated with insects. Giorno with a ladybug and Jolyne with a butterfly. The ladybug makes a lot of sense if you take into consideration the previous points of Giorno initially being written to be a girl. Ladybugs can mainly be known for luck, but in some cases also creation as well. And Jolyne having a butterfly, I think, symbolizes freedom because Stone Ocean has a lot of things about breaking out of prison and becoming free, stuff like that. But also, Jolyne straight up has Spider-Man powers. How could she not have an insect on her outfit? Oh my god, math. Don't worry, I'll explain it to you. Josuke is 16 in Part 4, which takes place in 1999, Giorno is 15 in Part 5, which takes place in 2001, and Jolyne is 19 in Part 6, which takes place in 2011. If I did my calculations right, that would mean that Josuke would be born in 1983, Giorno would be born in 1986, and Jolyne would be born in 1992, which means that Josuke and Giorno are only 3 years apart, Giorno and Jolyne are only 6 years apart, and then Josuke and Jolyne are 9 years apart. Also, their age differences can all be divided by 3. Regardless, it is interesting how much decades there are between Jonathan, Joseph, and Jotaro, just for Jolyne, Giorno, and Josuke to be basically all born less than a decade from each other. But also, it makes sense considering Araki can only skip so far into the future, and parts 2 and 3 already have a massive jump between them. Okay, this one is more funny than anything else, but both have teammates whose gender confuses the fans. Or, in the case of Jolyne, multiple. Regardless, I'm specifically referring to Narancia and Anasui because so many people thought Narancia was a girl, and Anasui obviously has a bit of a design shift throughout the parts of 6's manga, which only added more to the confusion of the anime adaptation because they went with Anasui's final, more masculine design. Also, it gives me an excuse to show this meme. Both of their villains also do a lot of really messed up stuff when it comes to Relation of Time. Diavolo specifically has his stand King Crimson, which I don't know what it does exactly, but it's definitely messing up with time. And then for, Poochie, he obviously does the whole reset the universe thing at the end of part 6. Sorry, not sorry for spoilers. But I guess this isn't unique to them, considering most JoJo villains mess up with time, with the exception of Cars, actually. And, I haven't seen anything past part 6, so I don't know. You know, when you put it that way, Joseph really is like an odd one out when it comes to all the JoJos. That's another video, I'm not talking about it today. On topic of their villains, this is more like a coincidence, something I just wanted to point out, final thing. Poochie is an Italian priest, Diavolo means devil in Italian, and Dio means God in Italian. So, Giorno is technically the son of God, and then he fights the devil. So in an indirect way, Giorno is Jesus Christ. But also Jesus Christ is an actual character in this series. Don't ask me how, I just heard it from later parts. I do wonder if it was coincidental for Araki to make everything religious somehow tie back into Italy. Or maybe I'm dumb and I'm missing some context somehow. Regardless, I'm chalking it up as coincidental, as I don't know any more than this. However, I do have one more final point, despite the speed paint coming close to an end. Frogs. I'm not even joking about this one, okay? Doppio, which is technically Diavolo's alter ego, does end up picking up a frog and using it as a telephone. And then when it comes to part 6, Weather Report makes a bunch of poisonous frogs rain down to try and slow down Poochie or help Jolyne win against him. So, oddly enough, both of these parts have frogs in them. Or even bizarre? They're the only ones with frogs, I think. Anyway, this is the final drawing. Thank you guys for coming to my TED Talk about the similarities between Jolyne Cujo and Giorno Giovanna. If you have any more, let me know. I'm sure there's a lot more that I missed because I only did all of those Joe notes in one day. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Have a good day, morning, night, whatever time it is when you're watching this, and just have a good time. Goodbye, and I'll see you guys later.